parallel construction. Now what parallel construction says is that when we use certain structures, the structures of which you have been given in the material, say for example between A and B, the sentence has to obey a certain format. In the sense, when I'm making a choice between these two things, or if I'm joining two things by saying A as well as B, these two things have to be similar in a manner. What I mean by that is, if A in itself is a noun, then B also has to be a noun. If A is a verb, B also has to be a verb. Now the structures that obey this rule have been outlined very clearly in the material. Practice as much as you can, get used to these structures so that you can identify them just by looking at a couple of words present in the option. From those structures, you need to start spotting what are the things that are either being chosen from, as here, or being joined, as you find here. Or if I was using and, it could be multiple, A, B and C. Then we look at those three things and check that all those three things are of a similar kind. Nouns with nouns, verbs with verbs, and the same form of verb as well. So if you've got the verb S form, which is the singular form of a verb, you should be having a singular form here. Or if you've got the ing form, you should be having an ing form here. That essentially is parallel construction on a very simplistic note. Let's look at how we apply parallel construction now. With this question, following our method, we'll find the difference between and among. Now, if we do know how these two are used, you'll know that among is used to choose between more than two things, between is used to choose between just two things. Since we're choosing between two things, we can eliminate the among option directly, and that eliminates B. Looking at the other options, as soon as you know that we're talking about between A and B, you know that parallel construction must be applied. And that's what you should go check here. Looking at option A, you know that we're choosing between raising tuition, A, and reduction of staff, B. Now the choice between these two things tells us that these two things should be similar by parallel construction. Raising tuition, the ing form of a verb, the fourth form given here, and reduction of staff is a noun, again going by the question with the last question, we've seen how to spot nouns. You can eliminate A because we're trying to make an ing form of a verb parallel with a noun. Looking at C now, we've got raising tuition right after the word between. So all you need to do is know the structure, spot the things in between, and that is it. You do not have to think anywhere beyond that. Do so very mechanically. So after the word between, I've got raising tuition, which is a verb, ing form. And then I've got reducing staff, which seems parallel. But between A and B is a structure. You cannot break it and say between A or B. This would be wrong. And that's the mistake that C makes. The structure here is between or, which is not acceptable in GMAT. Moving on to D now. Between raising tuition, verb ing form, between raising tuition and, between A and B structure, between raising tuition and reducing staff, verb ing parallel with verb ing seems like a pretty good option. What you should start to realize now is that every word given in the options matters. So you should not really skim through the options, but look at the importance of every word written there. Looking at E, between the rise of tuition, the rise, you know that anything followed by A and the is a noun, the rise becomes a noun, and the reduction of staff, again noun. So if we've got a noun being made parallel with a noun, seems to be fine, seems to be parallel. Which brings us to how we make this choice. Going back to the first preference we'd learned, if the only difference is a noun form versus a verb form, you pick the verb form, which gives us D as the answer, or pick the shortest option available to you, which again gives us D as the answer, simply through parallel construction. And the key takeaway would be, you have to know the structures through and through, and when checking for parallel construction, do so very mechanically. Just look for the entities, look for the words there, do not try to understand too much around that.